Every franchisor and franchisee seems to think that you're going to have a lease signed in 30 days. And that's just not the reality. From onboarding to site search to LOI to lease execution, you're talking about months worth of time. In today's episode, I'm going to break down exactly what happens from onboarding to lease execution and how you can set realistic expectations for your team, your brokers, and your franchisees. This way, everyone stays aligned and motivated. One of the biggest challenges in the kitchen, managing that fryer oil. It's messy, it's hot, somebody's going to spill it, and quite frankly, nobody ever actually wants to take on that responsibility, or even worse, they lie and they say they did it. Nobody wants that job. That's where Restaurant Technologies comes in. Their total oil management system takes care of everything. It's completely automated, so there's no back and forth on who does what and when, or no one's getting burnt, and there's no issue of any slip or fall because maybe you didn't clean it up entirely. They automate the entire process. They deliver it, they filter it, they pick it up, and they recycle it. No burns, no spills, no hazards, just a safer, more efficient process and a safer restaurant. And here's the thing, there's no upfront cost. So if you want to cut down on accidents, protect your team, and keep your kitchen running smooth, just head over to rti-inc.com or just give them a call, 888-796-4997, and get started today. All right, guys, welcome back to Close Monday. I'm your host, Kyle and Sarah. I'm a former chef, a former restaurant owner, turned restaurant real estate strategist for restaurant franchisees, franchisors, and independents all across the country. And my goal on this show, and my goal on this episode, is to really temper your expectations around this entire process. And I'll tell you what, I was going to do a completely different episode today, but this was such an issue for me this morning and into this afternoon that I was like, this should be the topic because I'm going to be the most passionate about it. So this is where we are. So I do have some notes here that I took down because I need to stay on track. My mind starts running away from me. And I'll tell you, I can get heated on this one, I'm just going to be honest. But I know that this process is frustrating and time consuming, and it often leads to arguments and misunderstandings. And there's a whole lot that I can get into there. And it's really the reason why I started this company, 10 Rep. Expectations are such a big thing. In any kind of relationship, any kind of conversation, any kind of dynamic, having an expectation that's unrealistic will ultimately lead to a feeling of frustration or anger even. So the biggest mistake that I see franchisees make is this thought that you're going to be in your space in 30 to 60 days. I'm here to tell you that's just not going to happen. I can say with almost 100% of certainty that that's not going to happen for you, particularly if you're really being thorough in the market, because just due to the nature of the business and how we get the information and verify what the space is consisting of or what the shopping center consists of, it takes time. So brokers will kind of just like, oh, okay, yeah, we can make that happen, but that's not going to happen. Okay, it's not going to happen because if you head into this conversation, into this dynamic with that expectation, in month 3, you're already pissed off. You're angry. You're looking at your broker. You're calling your franchisor saying, hey, I don't still have a site. He hasn't presented anything to me. What's going on? It takes time to map the process, to really understand where the market is at and all of the different sets of criteria that you need to fulfill on the franchise side and what the market is offering in terms of availability. Because there are exclusives. There are flat out just sites that won't work for you, period. And really between those two dynamics, you're looking at a very thin window or a very thin pool of sites that are potentially available to you. Okay. So in that aspect, it is very much like finding an apartment or finding a house. There are tons of houses on the market. A bunch of them are in neighborhoods you don't want. A bunch of them just don't work for you due to layout, due to the number of bathrooms, due to it doesn't have a pool, whatever it is. Those same things apply here. So as you're looking at a site, understand that it is not linear. Okay. It is up and down. It is all over the place in terms of where the conversations are, emails, texts, phone calls between brokers and landlords and developers. Everybody is working on multiple things at the same time. And you're not going to want to hear this, but just because you want it right now does not mean it's going to happen. So have some patience in this process, because if you're going to go into this thinking that it's going to get done in a very short period of time, we're already off on the bad foot. Okay. So let's talk about what a real timeline does look like. If it's not 30 to 60 days, Kyle, what is it? The absolute best case scenario for this process, from onboarding to lease execution. So the realistic process that I mentioned to my franchisors that we're aiming for, okay, this is our target, and we track every step of the way. Where are we at? When did they get signed on? When did we issue the LOI? When was the tour? All that stuff we track. So in weeks 0 from onboarding, which, by the way, some folks that I deal with, takes you a week to onboard yourself into our system, which is really just a set of about 20 questions. So that part's on you. But let's just say you get it done in one day, and we know your market. Now, let me back up. Keep in mind, from our perspective, we are just getting handed franchisees. We don't really know where the pipeline is in terms of the franchise sales team. So we're an outsourced team. So they'll say, hey, we just got a franchisee signed up in Alabama. Okay, so now we have to dedicate our resources to Alabama, and that takes time. So I would say, from that time of gathering all of the materials for the market, understanding the unit economics, the ideal footprint, the ideal co-tenancy, all of that stuff for your brand, plus understanding what's available in the market. Now, that may sound like a simple thing. A lot of you guys look on LoopNet. You're looking online at Biz Buy Sell, which different episode. But commercial real estate market is different than residential real estate. Everything that's available isn't always online, and everything that's online isn't always available. So the only way to find out what's happening is to call people and to email them. Hey, Mike, is that site still available? Hey, sure. Who are you working with? There's a whole back and forth that needs to happen, because we need to understand what's allowed in their center versus what we're looking to do. So we are defining these markets, defining these opportunities, and defining these territories, and really just trying to get a grasp on what our entire inventory potentially looks like. That process alone is probably 2 weeks. We say it's going to take 2 weeks. So when we onboard, our goal is to schedule a tour right away. So we schedule a tour almost 2 weeks out from that day. This way, this entire process is happening in the background, but at the end of it, you're going to have some sites that you're going to get in a car and tour and take a look at. This can be, though, worst case scenario. I mean, it could be 6 months before you do this in some markets. This can be one of the most time-consuming portions of this process. Once we have that and we start finding out what's going on, we really, really are getting into more market research and site sourcing. So this is where brokers, and then all our tech platforms that we work with, Placer, Crexy, CoStar, all of those platforms, we're going through them, and we're running these sites through our metrics. We have a proprietary tool that helps us filter out all of the ones that aren't going to be a fit based on demographics, and on some co-tenancy stuff and foot traffic. So that does about 95% of the work for us. So we have a pretty tight list when we enter a market. But then we got to call everybody. Hey, is this still available? Is this still available? What's the rent? What's the timing? I had today happen to me an LOI that we submitted 2 weeks ago. The landlord come back and say, actually, we're going to wait to fully market the space. We're not treating this as an off-market opportunity anymore. So that's a curveball. We thought we were ahead of the curve. Didn't hit the market. Place went dark. We put in an offer. We want it. 2 weeks, no response from the landlord, and then that. So getting a little bit ahead of myself, but that's what happens. Once we find these sites that we think might work, we take a look at them in terms of their economics, run them through the profitability calculator. What do we think it's going to cost to build out? What do we think the rent ratio is going to be? What do we think our sales projections are going to be, first and foremost? That's a priority. From there, we're going to narrow it down to 3 to 8 sites. I mean, 8 sites these days would be a lot, but more like 3 to 5 sites, I would say, that we're going to get out there and tour and take a look at. That process right there that I just quickly ran through could take 4 to 6 weeks. All right. So now we're looking at 6 weeks to get the sites that we wanted. Okay. That's a long time. Like I said, we scheduled that call, that tour for 2 weeks out. So like on that third week, we're ready to hit the road. That's an ideal situation. I'll tell you the truth, we're probably more like 4 or 5 weeks. But we like to stick to what our goals are because we're constantly trying to improve, compress that timeline, reduce friction. But keep in mind, even when we find the sites that we like, broker might be away, landlord might be unresponsive, some other kind of emergency, they're negotiating a lease with another tenant so they don't call you back. So there's a lot of BS back and forth that has to happen before we really know if it's even really available. Something could change day to day. Another quick story. I had a guy who knew that I worked with a restaurant operator here and said, hey, I know you work with them. They would be great for this space. Great. Turns out they think the same thing. I told them about it. They were like, yeah, let's go. Let's get in the car and go see it. This was 24 hours. Okay. They should take a look at it. I called him. Yeah, we love it. Can we go tomorrow? Yes. 7:30 that night. Sorry. Have to reschedule. We had another offer come in. We didn't even know there was anybody interested. That's broker stuff. But yeah, we had an offer come in that they think they're going to take. He called me. So there's just a lot of dynamics behind the scene, and we'll get into it here, but understand that everyone's trying to move the ball down the field. All right, so now we are on to week 6, 7, 8, right? 6, 7. Shout out 6, 7. God, if I ever never hear that again, it'll be fantastic. You guys know what I'm talking about. But now we're looking to get in a car and we're going to tour. And we have now done all the demographic work, all the psychographic work, all the co-tenancy thing. We have a pretty good idea what we're going to go look at. But now it's about that in-person gut check, vibe check feeling of the market. Because the franchisor is not always based in that market. You have somebody from that team come out to take a look at the site. The franchisee knows the market. And there may not be a line. You know, the franchisor knows the brand. They built the brand. They want to know where they're going to be placed. So when they go there, they're expecting a certain look, feel, and vibe based on what they were presented. But there's always that gut check. I don't know. This seems like people are headed that way more. Or this looks like that shopping center gets more attention. The Placer report says this, but I don't know. This one feels like a better fit. So it's that combination of things. It's why you get out there and look at these sites. You don't make decisions just based off of what you see online. So in that time, you're comparing everything side by side. You're collecting notes. You're getting pictures. You're getting floor plans. You're getting CAD drawings. You know, some of these larger groups, you guys may have an architect on board that you can just kind of flip something over to do a test fit, which is great. But even that takes time. Oh, I don't have the CADs. I got to get them from this guy. This guy's got to send you a non-disclosure on the CADs and you got to sign it. So there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff. And then it's actually doing the work of putting those CADs in the computer and seeing if you can fit or you can build out your space in that particular property, period. So that's, again, you're looking at almost 9 weeks now. We're at 9 weeks. So now we've done that. We've waited for everything. We've gotten all our test fits. Now we're pushing 10, 12 weeks. Okay. Again, keep in mind this whole time, holidays, weekends, birthdays, somebody's sick, no one's around, can't move the ball forward, can't get an answer, no one's picking up, deal's no longer available. So it's very fluid. And we submit an LOI on the properties. Let's say we saw 5, we submitted 2 LOIs. We submit it back and forth in counter offers, finalizing terms, getting a little maybe legal look at this, even though it's a non-binding situation. Maybe you want a lawyer to look at it if it's your first time. And then we kind of run that deal through basically I'll call like a review template, but we're really just comparing to all the other deals that we've done and how all those metrics stack up. We've done it in the initial review, but now we're just making sure like, hey, these economics stack up. Are we pretty confident we can do these sales here? How's this really looking before we execute this LOI and move to lease? Now, you are not obligated to move forward on the site until you execute the lease. But I'll tell you this, and some brokers act differently. If you're going to be signing LOIs all over town, it's not a great look. So make sure you're signing LOIs on spaces that you actually want to pursue. I don't mind throwing one out there that's, I don't know, maybe let's see what this deal looks like, see if we can get some feedback on the market from this landlord, and understand that I don't know if it's go, even if this is perfect, but let's see, maybe we're missing something. So that's okay. But if you're going to be running all over town, just issuing LOIs all over the place, not a great look. And plus, if you're really doing your homework, what's the point of that? So don't waste your time on that. But again, everything goes smoothly. You submit the LOIs, the counteroffers are coming back. You finally get that to a place where everybody agrees to it. You're now at about 14, 15 weeks. Okay, so 14, 15 weeks, you're almost at 4 months. All right, so 3, 4 months, closer to 4 months, you're in it now. And this is perfectly, perfectly normal. Do not freak out. This is how the process goes. Now, again, 10 rep was started because I think there's a way to improve this. There are ways to mitigate all this stuff, but a lot of that has to be an industry change. I'm not going to change it on my own. I can do the best I can to make sure that all my clients are satisfied and that our timing is as buttoned up and our processes are as buttoned up as possible. But let's face it, this is an industry-wide thing that's going to have to change. Once you submit the LOI, let's just say it's on a Friday. You submit the LOI, that's signed, get it executed by the landlord. Now you have a fully executed LOI. You've agreed to the basic terms of the lease. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, pick it back up. Landlord's broker is now going to send that over to their legal team and say, hey, we got to get a lease drafted for this space, for this tenant. They're not waiting for you. They've got tons of other things to do, other leases to draft, other negotiations. So now you're in line on the landlord side. So that's another thing we track, is the time that the landlord has the LOI versus when we have the LOI and what that looks like. So again, I can't control them. We can push as much as we want. Hey, where are we at? Where are we at? What's going on? Any update? Doesn't mean we're going to get the answer. Weeks 15 to 18, I'll say. Again, this is pretty ideal. The legal team drafts the lease. Your lawyer, their lawyer are talking about getting everything in line and agreed upon. You're having meetings with your attorney where you're reviewing different sections of the lease. New things come up. We even talk about financials that have to get presented. All of that stuff eats up more and more time because not everything, even though the LOIs are fairly comprehensive that we submit, there are going to be other things in that lease that we have pushed, other things in the LOI that we have pushed to lease, meaning that this is a conversation that the lawyers need to hammer out, not really an LOI thing. So that is another whole layer. And I would count on an ideal situation, that lease review to take about a month. It's going to take at least a month for your attorney to get that done if they're doing the right thing. And it's a typical standard lease. When you negotiate that final language and you execute the lease, I'm going to tell you 18 to 20 weeks. So you're looking at 4 to 5 months. Ideal. I'm going to tell you right now that and I'm going to tell you right now, it's probably closer to 6 to 9 months. And some of these negotiations can take almost 18 months from beginning to end. Okay, so 0 to 18 months, crazy, right? Then you start construction. So you need to understand how you can be more prepared. You want to understand how you can be better prepared in a situation so maybe you can mitigate this timing on your end. That's what I would be asking myself. What can I do? Because I don't like when things are out of my hands and I got to hand them over to somebody else. But if I want to keep the momentum going, if I want to make sure that I'm doing everything I can to make sure I get that space, here's how the top performing franchisees and franchisors handle this process. First thing, they have all the documents in place. So you want a resume about me, you want my financials, you want to understand a little bit about the concept. Maybe you want to understand a little bit about the training that gets involved from the franchisor perspective. How do they support franchisees? Have that all ready to go. Our team, we don't hit the market. We don't let you even look or sniff a site until we have every single one of those documents. And if you're getting an SBA loan, we need an SBA loan pre-approval. It sounds harsh, but understand that we're only doing this to save time. So we can go back and forth on the LOI without some of that information, but we know that it's going to come up. So anticipating needs is one of the core components of 10-Rep. It's really a belief that I took from the restaurant industry. The best service you have is anticipating the needs. That's what always feels good in the restaurant, when you know that the waiter or the kitchen staff or the manager or the busboy, whoever, just came to you with something that you weren't expecting, but you knew you might need. That's hospitality, that's service, and that's what we try to do. So we anticipate those needs. While we're doing that, we're documenting every single conversation. We have an AI on every call that takes all the notes. We are taking our own manual notes when it's in the field. And then all that information, including the brochure, the LOI, the CADs, the floor plans, any other material information about the site, MEPs we call them, or as-built on that site. We want all of those. We keep everything in a centralized location on the platform. This way, our team, meaning me, the franchisee, the franchisor, and all the other players in that, there could be multiple people on the franchisee side. We have a couple people on our side. We have the franchisor has 2, 3 people, 4 or 5 people sometimes on their side. Anybody who has access to that platform, to that centralized point of communication, can look in there at their own time and say, oh, here's where we are with all these sites. This is the latest on this market. This is where we're at. So by being prepared, having centralized communication, and understanding your top sites. Okay, so that's number 3 here. You're not going to have grand slam home run sites for every one that you look at most of the time. You're going to have some singles, some doubles, some triples, right? Stay away from the singles, but the doubles and triples could still be worth something. So when you understand each site and all those sets of criteria that are different for every brand, we assign point values to score them. So we know when we're looking at something that's a 22 out of 25 versus something a 19 out of 25. What's that point differential? We know with a fairly large degree of certainty that we've scored this correctly, and this is how we think is going to rank out of 25 points. Okay, it's 5 sets of criteria that we have on there. And since this is all pre-scored, we kind of know where we're going to prioritize our energy. So that communication, we stack them in order of priority on our platform. And then whenever everybody signs on, they can see, hey, we're kind of lagging on our best site here. What's going on? Our underperforming site, they seem really eager to get in there. Maybe that's not a little bit of a red flag. All that stuff matters. All that stuff really goes into the decision-making process. You're getting a vibe from the landlord. You're getting a vibe from other people involved in the process of what it's going to be like to be at this property. And then, because you have this, and we provide everybody with every piece of information that we can get on this site, again, at all times, centralized, log in whenever you want. We own the data. We know what we're looking at. We know what our co-tenants are doing. We know what the guy down the street is doing. We know what Chick-fil-A is doing. We know where they're ranked nationally in terms of sales compared to every other Chick-fil-A, right? That matters. Or the Walmart or the Bojangles. We want to know what everybody's doing in the market. We see the traffic. We see the visibility. We have our scoring. But we want to own all this data for ourselves and not rely on brokers telling us, oh, you guys are going to do great here. I'm here all the time. This site does tons of traffic. This store does this. My kids' softball team, they come here for lunch every day. All that stuff is anecdotal. You need to own the data. You cannot be relying on brokers' enthusiasm to get a deal done. You cannot be relying on brokers' enthusiasm. That's it. It's great. They have some ulterior motives as to why they may want this site to get done, but own the data. Okay? So when you're looking at how long this process takes and you want to mitigate, control what you can on your side, you control the controllables, which is all you can do. You're going to make sure that you have everything in order. You're going to document all the communications in a centralized place. You're going to pre-score all the sites in all the markets, and you're going to own the data. This way, you know what's what, where to focus your energy, and you can make sure that you're making the best decision possible. All right, so let's do a quick recap here before we wrap up. Number 1, site selection is not slow. It's very structured. And the behind the scenes, what it takes to get done, is what chews up most of the time. So make sure that you're prepared. If you're a franchisor listening to this, set these expectations from the beginning. We have a document that we give to all of our franchisors and franchisees that outlines this, that lets them know, like, hey, this is what we're in for. Because the last thing you want from a brand standpoint as a franchisor is pissed off franchisees. So if we go and tell you, like, hey, this could take a year to get done based on what we found here, that's the expectation that we're working with. Because you don't want to be apologizing all the time or encouraging broker changes all the time. It's another terrible look. It's a very small community that deals with restaurants that are in the know like this. That word spreads quick. So ask your franchisor, what's the expectation on getting a store open here? Very valid question. How they support it? Hopefully they're using us. If not, ask them. Ask other franchisees. Make sure you understand exactly what you're going to be in for. because heading in with the wrong expectation is going to lead to disappointment. So if you're a franchisee, you're with XYZ group, you're not getting great support, and you want to get some of our help, my email's below, the link to our website. Scroll down a little bit, you'll see there's an assessment that you can take. Just fill out those 15 questions. It's going to tell us exactly where you're at. And then we'll call you back. Like, hey, look, here's where you're at. This is what you need. If you want us to help, great. If not, implement it on your own. Talk to your franchisor, see what the deal is. But we want to make sure we are at least giving you our feedback and what that expectation on timing may look like for you based on what you just told us. So completely free, no obligation. But if you want to hire us, obviously we'd love to work with you. But at the end of the day, the results from this report is going to have you understand where you're at. And we have some internal scoring that's going to tell us, all right, this is their filled out, this is their completed questionnaire, and this is their completed assessment, and here's where they are. And we'll get that information, that feedback to you right away so you can make a decision. All right, guys, that's it. Thank you so much for checking out this episode. And please don't be pushy. Don't go switching brokers. Don't be sending LOIs all over town. Just be structured from the get-go. I promise you, you're going to get to where you want to be. There's always another site. There's always another opportunity. And you need to be willing to walk away, but you also need to be prepared. You need to be focused on your end goal. And that process takes time. See you next week.